Hi, welcome to my channel, The Whining Housewife. Today we're going to be working on 3 chaffle recipes. And if you don't know what a chaffle is basically just a low-carb cheese waffle, which doesn't sound very good, but they are amazing. Today we're going to be making breakfast with just some basic chaffles, blueberries, and low-carb syrup. We're going to be making lunch, a chaffle rueben, and to amp it up even higher, we're going to be making dinner, a chaffle lasagna. So let's get started. Our basic chaffle recipe starts with 4 simple ingredients. We have shredded part skim mozzarella, we have superfine almond flour, 1 egg, and some baking powder. It's really, really simple. We're gonna start with a half a cup of mozzarella. I just kind of eyeball this, but it's because I make them every morning. So if you're not sure, just go ahead and measure it out. On top of the mozzarella, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of superfine almond flour. 1, 2. We're going to add 1 egg. Pop that in the trash can. And 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Make sure that you level off that 1/4 teaspoon. And that goes in. And that's it. It's that simple. This is the basic recipe for chaffles. Stir that up, and you've got your batter to go into your mini waffle maker. To our basic waffle batter, I'm going to add just a little bit of cinnamon. And that's going to give it a nice flavor. Stir that in. You want to divide your chaffle batter in basically half and go ahead and load it into your mini waffle maker. Close it up and wait for it to be done. Now it's going to get a nice toasty brown when it's done. And the front of this particular waffle maker, this is Dash, and I got this from my sister-in-law for Christmas, one of the best Christmas gifts I've ever gotten. The front of this is going to lift up a little bit and kind of tell you that it's ready, but you can also tell because it starts steaming. So we're just going to wait for this to be done, and then we're going to do our second one. So now we've got our toasty brown chaffles. I'm going to add just a few things to it to amp it up a little bit. First, I'm going to add some fresh blueberries, delicious fresh blueberries from right around here in northern Georgia. Yum. Oop, one's rolling away. And I'm going to add some Walden Farms pancake syrup. This is a no carb, no calorie, no bad stuff pancake syrup that I absolutely love. It's got such a good flavor to it. And just because I feel like being fancy this morning, I'm going to add a little sprig of mint from my garden. So it's lunchtime and we are ready to put together our chaffle rueben sandwiches. What I have here is just the basic chaffle recipe that I told you from this morning. You just want to leave the cinnamon out of it, and instead of cinnamon you're going to put caraway seeds, and that's going to give you that taste of the rye bread that a rueben is built on. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon, half a teaspoon of caraway seeds in here and stir that up. And this is going to go right into my mini waffle maker. Basic recipe makes 2, so this will make exactly what we need to build the sandwich. So my 2 caraway chaffles are made. I'm going to go ahead and assemble my sandwich. Now a rueben is just corned beef, which I have here. This is sliced thin. It's a little bit of Swiss cheese. I'm going to add some sauerkraut on here. If you decide that you don't want the sauerkraut, you can make a Rachel sandwich just by substituting the sauerkraut for coleslaw. And I'm pressing this out as much as I can. I want to get as much liquid out of that as I can. So I've got my sauerkraut, spilled a little here, and a little bit of Thousand Island dressing, and I just use bottled. And that goes on top. Now, I'm going to take this over, and I've got some butter that has been melting in my cast iron pan. I'm going to go ahead and fry this baby up. So my chaffle sandwich has been frying in the butter. I've flipped it over already, and now the cheese is all melted and it's heated all the way through. I'm going to go ahead and take it out and plate it up. That is just absolutely beautiful. Let's cut it in half and see how this looks. Messy, messy. Beautiful. And that is the caraway chaffle rueben. And I'm going to try it because it looks really good. That is delicious. Next, we're going to talk about our cocktail that we're going to be making. And we're going to go on to our chaffle lasagna. For tonight's cocktail, we're going to be making a limoncello rosemary spritzer. We're going to start with some really beautiful lemons and some rosemary from my garden and a little bit of leftover Chardonnay from our last cocktail. So let's get started. Here we go. We're going to start with just a little bit of limoncello. Limoncello is a delicious lemon aperitif from Italy. It's an after dinner drink that they have all the time, and it's sweet and delicious and a very, very strong lemon flavor. We're going to put about a shot of that in the glass. Along with that, we're going to add about a half a cup to a cup of wine. More is always better. We're also going to add a little bit of club soda to give it that nice fizz, and a splash of Saint Germain. If you've never had Saint Germain, it is an elderflower liqueur that just gives a really bright taste to most cocktails. But you're only gonna wanna splash those, so just putting a splash in. All right. To that, we're going to add a little bit of lemon juice, and I'm squeezing it into my hand to get the seeds so that the seeds don't go into my drink. I'm going to stir this with a wonderful sprig of rosemary from my garden, and we're going to add a little wheel of lemon on the side. And this is limoncello rosemary spritzer. Oh, delicious. Next, I'm going to be making a caprese salad to go with our lasagna. Caprese salad, if you've never had it, is just tomato, fresh mozzarella, and lots of good basil flavor. So we're going to get started with that. I'm going to start with the fresh mozzarella. The fresh mozzarella is a buffalo mozzarella. It's nice and soft and tender and really delicious. And I'm just going to be cutting this into slices. You don't want your slices too thick. You want them so that they complement the flavor of the tomatoes, not so they overwhelm the flavor of the tomatoes. Let me do one more here, and then we'll get started with our tomatoes. So our tomatoes are vine ripe tomatoes. You're just going to slice those in similar width of slices as the cheese. Again, you don't want any of these ingredients to overpower the other ingredients. You want them to complement each other. And you're just gonna slide those in between these cheese slices here. Nice and pretty. Let me get one more tomato. Beautiful. So to go on top of my tomatoes and mozzarella, I'm going to chiffonade some basil from my garden. And I have a beautiful sweet basil here and a purple basil. Chiffonade basically means to cut into thin strips, almost like a ribbon. And the way that you're going to do that is you're just going to roll your basil leaves up together and cut them on the diagonal. And you will get these beautiful, beautiful ribbons of fresh, beautiful basil. This is going to get tossed over my salad. And then we have to worry about the dressing. So the dressing is real simple. It's just olive oil, balsamic vinegar, salt, and pepper. And you don't really have to mix the dressing up beforehand. You can do it right on top of your salad. Here we go. You just want a drizzle of the olive oil. Look at my big thing of olive oil here, and this crazy. But we use so much of it in our cooking. So we've got our olive oil. We're gonna do some nice aged balsamic vinegar. right over the top. After the balsamic, you're just going to do a pinch of salt over the top. Actually, you know what? Let's do a couple pinches. We want this to be nicely seasoned. And then some ground pepper. Yum. And that's Caprese salad. So for our main course tonight, we're going to be making chaffle lasagna. And the chaffles are left over from this morning. I went ahead and made some extra. And we're just going to be adding some nice sweet Italian sausage to that, some beautiful leftover sauce that I have, and some ricotta cheese. Can't wait to get started. Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. Enough of the cocktail. So we're gonna start with our sausage, and we've grilled the sausage off, and I have just cut it in diagonals so that it will lay in the lasagna pan very nicely. And it's hot, that's why I'm using the tongs. It's so hot, it's fresh off the grill. So we've got all of our sausage there ready to go into our lasagna. Let's go ahead and make the filling. And the filling is just ricotta cheese. I've got some beautiful globe basil here from my garden, and globe basil is one of the easiest basils to grow. So if you have a hard time growing sweet basil, globe basil is so much easier, and it's got that same pungent taste and aroma. It's delicious. I'm also gonna add 2 eggs to my ricotta cheese mixture. So let's get going with this. So I've got my ricotta in the bowl, and I'm gonna go ahead and add 2 eggs. And I'm going to add our globe basil. Now the great thing about globe basil is that the stems are so tender that you can chop up globe basil and the stems all together just into a nice fine dice or chop. Oops, got a little bit of shell in there. Let me get that out of there. Into a nice fine chop. And the leaves are so tender and so beautiful that you don't really have to worry about chopping those very finely. That's going to go into my ricotta mixture. I'm going to do a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. And I'm going to go ahead and mix that up all together and get this really delicious, creamy, cheesy filling that's going to go into our lasagna. Once it's well mixed, I'm gonna set that to the side, and I'm gonna start assembling my lasagna. Here we go. So I'm gonna start with the chaffles, and like I said, I made these chaffles earlier, so they're nice and cool and ready to go. I've got my chaffle layer down. I'm gonna go ahead and add my sauce. Like I said, I had some leftover sauce from earlier. I'm gonna add my sauce. And I'm gonna spread that out. I have made a mess. And I'm gonna spread that out onto the chaffles. On top of that, I'm going to add my ricotta layer. Now you're not going to use all of this ricotta cheese because it would just be way too much, but you will use a good amount of it because you want this to be nice and creamy and delicious and melty, just like lasagna should be. Spread that out over your layers. Once we have this all spread out, we're going to go ahead and add on our slices of sausage. All right. I'm just going to use my hands here. Hands are the best tools when you're cooking. We're going to add those slices of sausage on there. Give it a nice, smoky, beautiful taste to this lasagna. Let me get the rest of these on here. Then we're going to top that with some shredded part skim mozzarella cheese. All right, that is beautiful. Let's add our cheese. Now you can never have enough cheese in my opinion. So we are going to sprinkle this on liberally. That's about 1.5 cups of cheese. Once we have our mozzarella cheese sprinkled on there, we're going to add another layer of our sauce right over the top. And just because Italian food is not Italian unless it is overly cheesy, we're going to add some fresh mozzarella that was left over from our Caprese salad right on top of here to get nice and melty and delicious. So I've got some fresh mozzarella on our lasagna now. We're gonna go ahead and pop this in the oven at preheated 350, and we're gonna let it go for about 30 to 45 minutes, just until the cheeses are nice and melted, because you've already cooked the sausage, you've already cooked the chaffles, it's all good to go. So, bon appetit. So it's been about 30 to 45 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of the oven. And it is beautiful and melty and delicious. So having a couple of chaffles left over from this morning and wanting something sweet after my long day of chaffle making, I've decided that I'm going to make a dessert. We're going to be doing some strawberry chaffle shortcake. The first thing I'm going to do in making my shortcake is I'm going to go ahead and make some whipped cream. We're starting with heavy whipped cream, and we're going to add in some Swerve confectioner's sugar style sugar replacement. And I'm going to put a little bit of vanilla in here. So that is going to go, you're going to do about 1.5 cups of heavy cream. You're going to do about 2 tablespoons, and let me get a spoon here, about 2 tablespoons of the confectioner's sugar. And this is what this is going to do, is it's going to stabilize the whipped cream a little bit so that it's just easier to whip up. And then I'm going to get some vanilla just to flavor my whipped cream a little bit. This is from Costa Maya, Mexico. We brought it back after one of our latest cruises. I'm going to put about a teaspoon of that in there. Now the only thing you have to remember with whipped cream is that you don't want to over whip it, because it will just become sweet butter, and you don't want butter. So I'm going to start off, get out of the splash zone, I'm going to start off on low, and then I'm going to move on to a higher speed. So here we go. Start on low and get that confectioner's sugar incorporated. And then bring it all the way up. And that can just whip, but you want to really watch it because you don't want it to over whip. In the meantime, I've got some strawberries here that we have macerated in the Swerve granular sugar replacement. And macerate just means that you season it or put the sugar on top of the strawberries so that they get that nice sweet, and it will release some of the juices from the strawberries, so they'll be nice and juicy. So we've got that already going. We've got our whipped cream going, and when this is done, we'll assemble our dessert. So I'll see you in just a second. So I have my chaffles here, and our whipped cream is done. As you can see, it is nice, stiff peaks, but not butter. We don't want butter. So we're going to go ahead and assemble this. We're going to start with our first chaffle. We're going to put some strawberries on there. Some of our beautiful macerated strawberries. Yum, these smell so delicious. And we're going to add some of our delicious whipped cream. On top of that, let's put another chaffle. And let's build this tower of strawberry shortcake. A little more strawberry and a nice pretty dollop of our whipped cream. And there you have it. Chaffle strawberry shortcake. Beautiful, tasty, and low carb. If you like what you've seen today, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.